Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Aviation and Aerospace Hall of Fame, benefiting the D. Howard Foundation. I'm Brigadier General Dave Peterson, U.S. Air Force retired, and Executive Vice President of the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, and I'm honored to serve as your MC tonight. For this night highlights aviation and aerospace, two things that I'm very passionate about, and the Chamber involvement with the D. Howard Foundation has been tight ever since this first concept was raised several years ago for this event. We're thrilled to be here tonight. Everyone in the room knows we've had a 2-year hiatus from really everything, but certainly from this event, and so we are glad to be back together. One of the biggest differences you'll notice tonight is that our friend and founder of the D. Howard Foundation, Mr. Wayne Fagan, is not in attendance tonight. He has been super helpful and supportive through all of the efforts this evening, and we will have a special tribute to Wayne later this evening. To get us started this evening, please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Edison High School Junior ROTC. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight, with all the events in the world, particularly in Eastern Europe and specifically in Ukraine, we'd ask that we take a moment of silence to commemorate all those people that are suffering at this time. Thank you. Color Guard dismissed. At this time, please help me welcome Boeing's Deputy Site Leader, Dominic Pupany. Yeah.
So across Boeing, and especially the Boeing San Antonio site, serving our military customer is our top priority. Keeping their assets and platforms mission ready, whether it's a C-17, F-18, or other platforms we have on site, is what we do, and we strive to do it well. However, that's not Boeing's only mission. Boeing San Antonio also is dedicated to the communities in which we work in, where our employees live, and most importantly, providing inspiration to the youth in the community so that they can explore the great futures available in aerospace fields. Boeing works towards a future where all students, and we say all students, have access to learning so that they can develop their skills, do what they dream, and build something better. That's why events like this, Aviation Aerospace Hall of Fame dinner, and the work that the D. Howard Foundation perform are so important. We are all dedicated to see the pipeline of bright, enthusiastic, and innovative young people coming into our industry, and with a little selflessness to Boeing as well. How about another round of applause to all the outstanding students and youth representatives in the audience tonight. It's an honor for Boeing San Antonio, myself, the site's leadership team, and our fellow teammates to be able to host this year's Hall of Fame dinner. Honoring the history and the future generations of innovators in aviation and aerospace is so important. Think of all the innovations that have transformed our industry and great ideas that make traveling and exploration so exciting. Our jobs, all our jobs, is to keep inspiring our youth to not just follow the footsteps, but to build upon them and to dream and create far more than we could ever imagine. Just think of the awesome STEM programs in San Antonio connecting youth with future careers in our industry. It's so incredible the work that all of you do. But also, it's all of you out there and our elected officials. I'd like to thank the mayor, state legislatures, county commissioners, and all our council members for being here tonight. Also, the community leaders, the educators, the business thinkers whose job it is to inspire our newest generations. This will allow San Antonio, South Texas, and the American aerospace industry to reach great new heights. We are honored to recognize the pioneers who have shaped this aerospace industry, which is also why we're gathered here tonight. So congratulations to all our inductees, and thank you for your service to all of us. You've heard from the video that Boeing is expanding, and we have a great desire to continue to grow aerospace here in San Antonio. Everything the organization does will help ensure we have a talented pipeline to enable us to continue that. So let's have a great program tonight as we hear more from our inspirational leaders, our community organizers, who all have the same goal, and that's engage with our youth and all the work together for an awesome aviation future. With that, thanks again for coming tonight.
Thank you, Dominic, and thank you, Boeing, for all of your support tonight. And as someone that got to spend a little over 2,000 hours in one of your products, you've done good. All right, our next speaker tonight is our city's mayor, Mayor Ron Nirenberg.
Good evening. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am to be gathering once again here in person. Remember the last time we were in this building, I think it was the last dinner we had before all hell broke loose the last couple of years. So it's great to see everybody back here at Port, where Uncle Sam's eagles hatch. If I remember correctly, that is what it was, and that is what it will remain. As we keep moving forward boldly as a community, it's essential that we also come together to honor our shared legacy, to celebrate the work that is happening right here, right now, in San Antonio, and to reaffirm that we are more united than ever in capturing important opportunities for today for upcoming generations of San Antonians. So first, allow me to extend a heartfelt congratulations from my City Council colleagues and I to the D. Howard Foundation for the critical role you have all played during these years. Thanks to the tireless work, of course, to your founder, Wayne Fagan, even though he was not able to be here tonight. And to the growing momentum led by Executive Director Cristina Martinez, Board Chair Bianca Rhodes, and the rest of your team, you have been a unifying force for our aviation and aerospace communities. Bianca, Wayne, Cristina, and your board members, please stand and be recognized. You all have been the keepers of our history. You've been a driving force toward our future by inspiring and shaping the educational and career paths of our next generation of talent. We also extend our congratulations to the thousands of students who have been touched by the Foundation's innovative programs, and of course to the teachers and to the parents who have worked hand in hand with the D. Howard team in that shared vision, many of whom join us tonight. Can our teachers and our students and our parents please stand? These folks are the picture of resilience, and we all owe them a debt of gratitude for their perseverance over the last few years. Aviation and aerospace, of course, has some mighty deep ties in San Antonio roots. These roots trace back a century, where early chapters in aviation were written right here at Kelly Field, across town at Brooks, and our other military assets in San Antonio. I recently was in a welcoming room waiting for the First Lady to arrive, and there was a book on the table there that said, and General Webb and I were looking at it, marveling at that book. It had seen better days, but it was written and published in 1919. It was Kelly Field in the Great World War, and I think I sent a picture of it to Chris, as well as to Jim Persbach. The opening words of that was, "This is the tale of a whirlwind growth from a Texas cotton field to one of the world's great aviation centers." That's Lieutenant Kelly. And so that vision continues. And aviation and aerospace, of course, is what happens right here, and we are very proud of that. Our nation's defenders, represented tonight by the leaders of our military in Military City, USA, will continue to be the central part of San Antonio's standing as a world capital of aerospace and aviation excellence. We also tip our hats to the thousands of civilian men and women across our community who keep building on that profile. They are the people who operate and grow our municipal assets at San Antonio International and Stinson as our community's gateways to the world. They are the women and men who support our defense partners. They are the ones who are delivering innovations from their home base right here in San Antonio, and who in the process are making aviation across the planet more resilient, more efficient, and more accessible to hundreds of millions of people. San Antonio's opportunity to keep growing and leading on the world stage is made possible by the legacy names and homegrown innovators alike, working in the true spirit of collaboration, which of course is our secret formula right here in this part of the world. They include strategic and educational partners across our school districts and at places like SWRI, UTSA, Alamo Colleges, Hallmark University, the San Antonio Museum of Science and Technology, and the WEX Foundation, just to name a few. They include names like ST Engineering, joining us here tonight, right here in the heart of Port San Antonio. Companies like our host, Boeing, and like Standard Aero, both of whom are here at the earliest days of Kelly Air Force Base's transitions, have created hundreds of jobs, thousands of jobs since that time. Boeing, who's graciously hosting this event tonight, continues to expand, and we're very excited about the news, with new employee hires and work right here at the port, demonstrating their team's commitment to the prosperity of our community, the prosperity of our national defense, and ensuring that the torch of prosperity is passed on to our youth. These companies have been, are, and will be the pillars of strength in building a world-class center of aerospace, innovation, and modernization. They're joined by names like port-headquartered Knight Aerospace and Zurich. Allergies have been bothering me too, and supported by world-class operational partners like Atlantic Aviation. Together, these talented women and men are launching innovations that combine aviation with cybersecurity, medicine, robotics, three-dimensional printing, artificial intelligence, and other expertise to take this exciting industry to new heights in the century ahead. To all of you, and to the honorees inducted to the Hall of Fame tonight, I want to say congratulations. Despite what we know has been a very bumpy ride the world has faced these last couple of years, it is truly an exciting time to be alive, and certainly an exciting time to be alive in San Antonio. It is definitely an exciting time to be joining all of you tonight in the spirit of a well-deserved and long overdue celebration. So with the wind at your backs, please know that your San Antonio leaders stand firmly by your side. Your City Council is eager to do our part in working hand in hand with our defense community, with our educators, with our industries, and of course with our future talent as we continue this important journey together. We are truly, as you know, looking forward to great things ahead. We know they are on the horizon tonight, tomorrow, and in the years to come. So thank you all very much for the work that you do, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much, Mayor. At this time, we would like to recognize a special group of individuals that join this event every year, and that is our prisoners of war. Wayne Fagan cared very deeply about taking a moment to celebrate and lift up our U.S. military personnel who served honorably as prisoners of war during the Vietnam era. Will the following individuals please stand and be recognized? Colonel Joe Milligan. Colonel Robert Surton. One of tonight's Hall of Fame inductees, Dr. Thomas McNish. And I'd also like to recognize the children of Lori Langell, who are with us here tonight, and that was General Joe Langell you heard about, and his brother, Major General Greg Langell. And also like to give a shout out to Lieutenant Colonel Barry Bridger, roommate to Dr. McNish in Hanoi. Over to my left is a beautifully framed photo that Colonel Milligan will be accepting this evening on behalf of the POWs. And now, one of the most anticipated parts of the night, hearing from our distinguished guest and keynote speaker, Dr. Bernard Harris. Dr. Harris is the CEO of the National Math and Science Institute. Dr. Harris attended high school here locally at Sam Houston High School in San Antonio Independent School District. Dr. Harris has logged more than 438 hours and traveled over 7.2 million miles in space. Dr. Harris is a 2017 inductee of the San Antonio Aviation and Aerospace Hall of Fame. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Harris.
Thank you, General. Really appreciate being here this evening. And Mayor, thank you for showing up on my behalf. I appreciate that. Anyway, it is nice to be back here again. Let me thank a few folks here. Wayne Fagan, I know we're talking about him a lot this evening, but Wayne is the reason why I'm standing here this evening, because many years ago he asked me not only to serve on the board and advisory board of the D. Howard Foundation, but to also come and receive an award, and now coming to speak to this group. So this is, I kind of feel like that I'm coming home. And I am coming home really because I think many of you know that I'm a graduate of Sam Houston High School. And do we have Sam Houston in the house? I know they usually show up, but let's give them a hand anyway. It is so nice to see everyone. I'm going to say this, and I may eat my words, post-COVID. I think all of us are praying that this is the last time that we have to put those masks on and be concerned about this illness. And I have to tell you that, like many of you, I'm really getting tired of taking all my meetings in Zoom and Teams and all that sort of thing. So it's time for us to be face-to-face, shake hands again, bump, and whatever else that we need to do. You know, this organization has a proud history of supporting students, and I was one of those students many, many years ago. So it was really nice to see the students here this evening. And so my message is primarily going to be for them, but for all of you. In fact, I was sitting next to the city councilwoman, and she says, sometime this evening, I'd like you to share with me, what it's like to travel in space. Well, I am going to share that, but I need to tell the backstory first. So I was one of these kids who was fascinated with science and science fiction. I was really fascinated with space. I got a chance to watch in 1969, when I was 13 years old, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon. And when they landed on the moon, it was an amazing accomplishment, not only for this nation, but for this world, to actually send human beings off this planet onto another there by the moon, and it changed the lives of many people, including mine. Now, there are a number of us who were inspired by that, and I'd be remiss if I did not recognize one of my colleagues that I flew with. So, Tom Hendricks, can you please stand up? I think you're in here with your, is Becky here too? It's Tom. So Tom kept me out of trouble, by the way. You can pull him aside to say, how was I really on orbit? But anyway, I took this fascination with space to heart. You know, I run into many people who ask me this question, you know, how did you get there? And, you know, I wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't become an astronaut. And so how did you do that? Well, first of all, it takes determination. One of the things and one of the first messages I want to deliver to the young people out here is that you see many things when you're growing up. You see people doing things that you might want to do and to become, and you need to test it out. And so that's what I did. So when I saw Neil and Buzz, I tested it out. First with my head in exploring what it would take to be an astronaut, doing the research at the time, and I have to remind you, we didn't have the internet. So my research came in the magazines, Life magazines and Look magazine as we were making progress in the space program. But I also wrote to NASA to find out what the requirement was. And so when I found out what the requirements were, this notion of being an astronaut changed from a head decision to a heart decision. Now that's important because it is that heart decision that allows you to overcome the adversity that you're going to face in whatever you choose to do in life. Now, I must remind you of the time, too. This is in the 60s. So not only were we accomplishing some of the greatest feats of humankind, we were also dealing with some of the worst conditions here on Earth. And what I mean by that was that systemic racism that now we're talking about more. This was in the 60s, right after the civil rights, approval of the civil rights movement. So I could literally, on a little black and white television, watch the space program develop, and I could turn the channel and see blacks in this country fighting for their rights to vote, fighting for their rights, period, which has led to where we are today. And even though I didn't see anybody at NASA who looked like me, I was not going to let that deter me. Again, going back to that heart decision. So, you know, I graduated from Sam Houston High School. I went on to University of Houston as a pre-med student, and then went to the Mayo Clinic to do my medical training, and then eventually found my way at NASA. And in 1990, I was accepted amongst 23 others in the class in which we affectionately call the hairballs. Now, you probably don't know this, and I know the military guys here know what we do, right? We name ourselves, we name our squadrons and all that sort of thing, and so we actually named our class the Hairballs. Why did we name our class the Hairballs? Because we were the 13th class that was ever admitted to the astronaut corps, and 13 is typically a bad number. You know, people think, badly of it, and it's unlucky, and so we wanted to flip the script on that sort of thing. So how we got there is that we then got a motto of the black cat, and so bear with me here. What is the worst thing that a black cat can do? Cough up a hairball. So that's why we're called the Hairballs. So when we were in our class, if there was any issues that we did not like, the whole class would pretend to cough up a hairball. I know this sounds, you thought you were coming here to listen to a really, sophisticated speech. But I also wanted to show you that we're all human. NASA also has a number of other names like the flying escargots, and Tom, I don't remember what your name was, but say that louder again for everybody. The class of no class. That was Tom's, yeah. So anyway, So once I was accepted in Astronaut Corps, went through the training, normally takes about 2 years or so, and then I was selected for my first mission. Now, Councilwoman, let me get to the point of what is it like to travel in space. So I really appreciate the fact that on my table there is a shuttle that's represented in the middle there. I know you guys know we're no longer flying the shuttle, that we now have several ways and get to orbit, but the shuttle was a remarkable vehicle. Shuttle weighs about 5 million pounds. In order to get that 5 million pounds in the air, you have to light 5 engines that produce a thrust of 7.5 million pounds. And I'm here to tell you this evening, when those engines light, you are leaving this planet and nothing's going to hold you to it. In fact, one of my favorite astronauts, Story Musgrave, calls it a violent ride. He's from the South. And it really is a violent ride. As you get pushed back your seat at liftoff to about 2 Gs, and then within what we call first stage, when we're riding the solid rocket motors, we pull up to 2 to 2.5 Gs, and then after we get at 100,000 feet or so, we drop off the solid rocket motors, and now there is nothing holding us back. There is no atmosphere around the vehicle, so guess what we're doing? We're speeding up. Oh, and by the way, did I mention during the first stage we reach a velocity of a mere 2,500 miles an hour? And so over the course of the next 6.5 minutes, if you've done the math, total of 8.5 minutes to get to orbit, we go from 0 to 17,500 miles an hour in order for us to safely get parked into orbit around the Earth. It is a violent ride. And we go from being pushed back in our seat to 3 to 3.5 Gs, so 3.5 times our weight to zero gravity, just like that. So it really is an incredible ride. And I remember the first thing that I noticed when I was on orbit, when I knew that I had finally made it into space, was the loud noise stopped immediately, and then everything began to float in front of us. And it was just amazing to have that experience. And I remember taking my glove off, and when I took my glove off, it got away from me and it started tumbling in the air, and I went, wow, that's kind of cool. So then the next time, I was going to do it intentionally, so I took my other glove off and I threw it in the other way. And so I'm here just enamored with microgravity and just amazed that I'm finally here. And I didn't realize that I was still in my seat and everybody else was gone. So immediately I reached down and I grabbed my seat buckle, and when I unbuttoned my buckle, you know, they put us in, sensors in pretty tight. I popped out of the seat like toast out of a toaster, and I was waving around and didn't have my sea legs together and all that sort of thing. And I realized for the first time why everybody got out of their seat so fast. Well, they were veterans. I was a rookie. And they knew that I was going to be flailing, and they didn't want to get kicked by me. So finally, when I got out of my seat, I went up to the windowsill, put my hand on the windowsill, and what I saw was this beautiful Earth, this beautiful ball suspended in space, mostly blue and white, because the Earth is mostly blue, mostly water. And so occasionally we will see land. But this, on a backdrop of this sea of stars, was just incredible. Now, that was my first mission. My second mission, I got a chance to don a 350-pound suit called an EVA suit, extravehicular activity suit, and walk in space. Now, you want to see something that scares the mess out of you? That is, open up the hatch and step out into nothingness as you're going around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour. It was incredible. Once you got used to this notion that you were not going to get away from the spaceship itself, you could focus on your activities. So I spent about 6 hours, just under 6 hours, in space doing the EVA, doing a lot of things in preparation for the International Station that's up right now. So I wanted to give you that experience of space flight. But I also wanted to share with you my view. This view not only allowed me to see the Earth as I think that all of us should see it, an Earth with no lines, And what I mean by that, you remember when you were in school and the teacher went up to you and said that, Bernard, go and bring the globe, and you brought the globe, and that globe had lines of latitude and lines of longitude. That globe had lines between countries. It had words on them like Germany or Ukraine, just to make an emphasis on that. And it underscores for me that we should not be fighting over these lines on these issues. We're all human beings. We're all here. We're all part of God's creation, here to explore our goals, our ambitions, to be able to take care of our families. And those are the things that we have in common. And I wish that we would focus on that. And as an astronaut, that deserves a hand. And as an astronaut, I think I speak for all of us, this is the view that we like us Earthlings, all of you, to see and to remind yourself of that when you're worried about these little piddly things that go on in our lives, that we are all one. After all, if an alien came to this planet, do you think that he would go, you're black and you're brown and you're female and you're male? No. They will either embrace you and say, Earthling, or they pull out their ray gun and shoot you on the spot. So I'll end with this, and that is a quote, one of my favorite quotes by Emmett Fox. Emmett Fox was a noted historian, a noted theologist, theologian, and Emmett had these words to say about who we are. And he says this, that our heart's desire is the voice of God. Our heart's desire is the voice of God. And then he goes on to say, and that voice must be obeyed sooner or later. So my message to all of you who have had goals, who've had things that you wanted to do, those of you who are adults who didn't do those things, you need to go and figure out how you can accomplish those goals. For the young people that are here, you're just beginning your life. You have all of this energy. You've got, this infinite ability. I like to say, especially when I'm talking to kids, that you're an infinite being with infinite possibilities. If you truly believe that, then you can accomplish anything in life. In fact, that was one of the things that my mother told me when I went to her and I said, Mom, I want to be an astronaut. And she told me, which was the foundation of my success, that I could be and do anything that I want to be and do in life. So remember that. That's your message. And the other, it is whatever you decide to do, check it out in the head and check it out in your heart. Your heart's desire is the voice of God. That voice must be obeyed sooner or later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Wow. I got to follow that. Wish me luck. At this time, I'd like to recognize our 2020 STEM Excellence Education Award recipients. Our recipients received their grants in the fall of 2021. We asked the students impacted by this funding to create short videos demonstrating how the funding helped their aviation programs. Please turn your attention to the screen to watch a video created, shot, and produced by a student from Alamo Heights High School. Their teacher, there you go, shout it out. Their teacher, Mr. Colin Lang, is one of our 2020 STEM Excellence Education Award winners. Please play the video.
The D. Howard Foundation has allocated money to the Alamo Heights Rocketry Program, which has used the funds to research, design, fabricate, and test a motor test stand. The motor test stand allows Alamo Heights rocketry students to test components for a Goddard-level rocket that will be launched later this year at White Sands Missile Testing Range. These tests are crucial in making sure the rocket works and reaches its goal of 50,000 feet.
Well, hello, my name is Brian Alage. I worked on the aft section of the rocket this year, which is a nozzle. Our nozzle this year is made out of a graphite insert surrounded by a phenolic boot and a bolt tail on the very end. This will help the rocket be very aerodynamic. What we hope to acquire from the test stand is by having a load cell at the very top, we will acquire the mass flow rate along with the thrust curve, which will not only benefit the nozzle, but also the fuel grain liner.
Hello, I'm Clay Hicks, and I'm with Alma Heights Goddard team this year. I'm doing injection. We're testing 2 different types of injector on this test stand, one impinging injector and one vortex injector. We're hoping to determine which injector can best produce the thrust curve and successfully use that injector on our launch in White Sands Missile Testing Range.
Hi, my name is Jed Harrison. I'm on the field grain team for the test stand this year, and we're going to be testing the field grain shape. Compared to our Goddard rocket, we're going to be using a circular port for simplicity's sake. Second of all, we're going to be looking at the liner and the necessity of it. In our regular Goddard rocket, we have a liner. However, in test stand, we're going to see if we actually need this liner. So we'll be testing 2 separate field grains. And then third of all, of course, we need to look at the thrust curve with the load cell. And that'll give us more information about impulse and overall thrust of the rocket.
Hi, I'm Ethan Feinstein, and on behalf of the Alamo Heights High School Aerospace program, we sincerely thank you for your donation and collaboration.
Is Mr. Lang with us to receive the award? Our second video this evening is from Roosevelt High School's Engineering and Technologies Academy. Please turn your attention to the screen to watch a video created, shot, and produced by the students at Roosevelt High School. Their teacher, Mr. James Label, is a winner of the 2020 STEM Excellence Education Award. Please play the video. And Mr. LaBelle, if you would come to the stage for your award, please. We often talk about return on investment, and I don't know that I've seen more concise, powerful return on investment than those 2 videos, so incredible. And now, to help us usher in our newest Hall of Fame inductees, please join me in welcoming Port of San Antonio's President and CEO, Jim Perschbach.
Thanks, sir. You're too kind. Well, thank you all so much. It is an honor to be up here in front of you all. And it's an honor to be in a room full of so many people who care about aviation and aerospace. And I am particularly thrilled this year that instead of having beautiful airplanes dominating this room, what we have is what aviation and aerospace is really about. And that's that hall of fame, that walk of education, that walk of inspiration that Dr. Harris and Olga Custodio and so many people in this hall of fame have really laid down an awful lot for. The three folks that we are going to be honoring this evening exemplify the best of San Antonio and exemplify the best of what our industry does. The first is somebody that I'm going to take a point of personal privilege of and completely ignore the script. It is Dr. June Scobie Rogers. And Dr. Rogers may be somebody that, when you look at this, you're thinking she's here because of the late Colonel Dick Scobie. But it's not. June grew up here in San Antonio, graduated from Harlandale High School. She went to San Antonio College. And she launched a career as an educator, as a scientist, as a speaker, and an inspiration in her own right. And while she is most famous for launching the Challenger Learning Center, an organization that I had the honor of working on here in San Antonio a few years ago, she has been an inspiration to students throughout our country. And as somebody who grew up in Harlandale, now lives, I think, in DC, Dr. Rogers, and has walked with presidents and walked with the leaders, she exemplifies the can-do spirit that it doesn't matter where you start, doesn't matter how you get there, it matters how you finish. And most important, Dr. Rogers, is that for all that she has done and all the connections that she has made, there is not only a Challenger Learning Center here in San Antonio, but there are a host of Challenger Learning Centers throughout our country inspiring young people. And it is our pleasure to induct into the San Antonio Aviation and Aerospace Hall of Fame Dr. June Scobie Rogers.
Okay. I'm a short person here. Okay. Thank you. It is great to be in an airplane hangar. Believe me, I've been in a lot of airplane hangars. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. But I just want to share with you another introduction. A few years ago, when I was invited to be a keynote speaker for the suborbital flight conference. Well, they also decided to invite Neil Armstrong, who accepted. So Neil Armstrong and I were sitting at the head table when the host walked up and said, which of you is speaking first? And I said, oh, everyone's here to meet Neil Armstrong. He is speaking first. He said, no, June, not before ladies, I will not speak. And we went back and forth for a few minutes, and finally he said, okay, I give up. He came up to the podium, stood there, and said, my name is Neil Armstrong. And yes, I did step out on the moon. And yes, I have flown suborbital type flights. But my purpose tonight is to introduce June Scobie Rogers. He was a fine gentleman and a lot of fun to know. And the only book he ever endorsed was my Silver Linings book. So great guy, both he and Buzz. So it's great, Bernard, what a nice presentation. And Tom, thank you both as astronauts for joining us all tonight and speaking and sharing your stories. Some of you may wonder why June would get an Aviation and Aerospace award. Well, I have you know, I've taken off in a little Starduster aircraft 3 times. I never landed at all. So now you're really wondering, why is she getting this aviation award? But I'm here to share with you that we have launched and landed over 5.5 million youngsters at Challenger Learning Centers all over the world. And launching right here in San Antonio is Rick Varner and his team. He has 2 tables here. The Scobie, it's named for someone we know. Scobie Education Center Challenger. Where are you, Rick? Okay, there's your table. Great, thank you. And as well, I'd like for you to know Jason Getz, who works in development for Challenger Center. He's at our table. Doug King, there's Jason. Doug King was the 3rd president for the National and then International Association. I'm so happy you came, Doug. And then I want to introduce my prestigious brothers. John and Lonnie Kent are here, and why don't y'all stand and wave? Both of them served proudly in Vietnam. And their lovely wives, Linda and Carol. Also, my good friend, we grew up together in a classroom where we were both learning how to be good teachers, Kathy Casper and her husband, David. Good friends, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's a tremendous honor, and to Wayne Fagan again, thank you. And Christine Martinez, I cannot thank you enough. She is a good organizer. Dee Howard should be very proud to have her leading the way as the executive director. The greatest honor in this Aviation Aerospace Award is because of you, the people who are here, the people who have created it, the foundations, the schools, the students, teachers, and my son, Lieutenant General Richard Scobie, said to point out Tim at the Lockheed table. Where is Tim at the Lockheed table? Okay, I have a message for you later, Tim. But the entire Scobie and Kent families are proud that you all have recognized me at this event. Thank you kindly.
Our next honoree I don't need to read any more of either is our good friend and fellow board member, Colonel Tom McNish. I could tell you about Colonel Tom McNish's story as a pilot. I could tell you about his time as a prisoner of war in Vietnam for well over 2,300 days, but neither of those are the reasons that he is in our Aerospace Hall of Fame. After coming back from what must have been an absolutely horrendous time, he went on to get himself a medical degree, went on to open a private family practice here in San Antonio, to become a reserve officer, to become a surgeon for our United States Air Force, and most important, to consistently give back. In fact, Colonel McNish, we have many people on the D. Howard Board of Directors who are retired. I don't think Colonel McNish is ever going to retire. And he's going to continue to inspire people and give back to our community. Ladies and gentlemen, the newest honoree of the San Antonio Aerospace Hall of Fame, Dr. Colonel Tom McNish.
Well, June, I'm lucky. I don't have to quite tear it apart to get down to it, but you did a fantastic job. Thank you. And congratulations on your honor. This is pretty impressive. I know we've waited 2 years for it to happen, but I'd like to start by saying that I once heard that the greatest recognition that anyone can ever receive is to be honored by those whom he respects and admires. And I think that fits highly into the board members I get the honor of working with on the D. Howard Foundation, and it certainly fits our founder, Wayne Fagan, for whom I guess my being here has to take the blame. You know, just a quick summary of some of the things that Jim didn't mention. I mean, just kind of some of the things that I find to have been what led me to this place. I started out as a kind of a poor farm boy in the mountains of North Carolina who was raised to love his country. And then not too long after that, I learned to love aviation through the Civil Air Patrol at home and the air shows and all those kind of things. And that's kind of what got me into the mess I ended up in. On 2:45 in the afternoon, Hanoi time, of September 4th, 1966, my job description had an abrupt change. First, I was the world's greatest fighter pilot, and then minutes later, I had no control, no physical control over my life because I was a prisoner of war. And so for the next 6.5 years, I and my fellow prisoners accepted that new job with only one goal in mind, and that was to return home with honor. And we did. 49 years ago, this coming Friday, thanks to a president willing to express and use the strength of our country, I and over 100 of my fellow prisoners came home. We were in the second large release. The first group had come home on the 12th of February. Our country had not forgotten us. And we came home to realize that during that time we had developed 1,000 times the love of our country and the love of freedom that we had before we were captured. That country welcomed me home and has given me the privileges and honors and the opportunities to do the things that you just heard about that Jim told you. I was blessed to serve our military for completion of a 30-year career, and then came back to good old San Antonio. I had been here during my training, aerospace medicine training, down at when the School of Aerospace Medicine was at Brooks. We came to love San Antonio. We had family here, and the job offered itself, and I've been blessed to stay in that job for the last 27 years. So almost a second career of 30. I say that by pointing out that my life has been more blessed and had greater opportunities as a result of that 6.5 years than I could ever have had without it. I don't recommend it for anybody else, but you learn that you never truly value what you have until you're forced to do without it. We were forced to do without our freedom. We were forced to do without so many of the trivial little things that we take day to day and take them for granted. Please, folks, when you go back, think about the blessings that we all have. Probably one of the best I've heard is one of my fellow prisoners when he came home said, when he was asked how life was now, he said, "There's no such thing as a bad day when there's a doorknob on the inside of the door." You think of how many days we spent in rooms with no doorknobs, and it makes you really appreciate them. I was blessed to get home when I did, because it was just serendipity. I was able to meet the world's most beautiful woman, and my wife Yona, who is over there. Her two lovely young daughters, and soon after we got married, our son Tommy, who is also sitting at that table, joined the family. And if timing had been different, I would never have happened. So things work out for the best, sometimes when you think they're not. So now I get to enjoy our 3 kids, our grandkids, and God willing, in about 2 or 3 weeks, our soon-to-be first great-grandchild. So life's good. So all I ask is that you think about the value of freedom, not just accept it as part of our everyday life. God knows the people in Ukraine are learning that it's not automatic. And I once again would like to say thank you for this honor, the opportunity to share a little bit of my thoughts, philosophy with you folks. And I would like to close by saying, may God bless you, may God bless our country, and may God bless and strengthen the brave people of Ukraine as they fight for their freedom.
Our final inductee this evening is the Brooks School of Aerospace Medicine. And we couldn't have a more on-the-nose inductee for something that inspires and speaks about the value of education in medicine. The Brooks School of Aerospace Medicine was not only the place where President Kennedy launched the challenge to go to the moon. More important, it was the place where we launched careers, we launched astronauts, and we launched San Antonio as being more than just Military City USA, but Medical City USA as well. And while the School of Aerospace Medicine is no longer located at Brooks, Brooks continues to be a home of medicine. Wiley Laboratories continues to operate the centrifuge, the hyperbaric and hypobaric chambers. Anybody wants to ride a centrifuge and see if you do better than me, you're welcome to do so. And it is also the home of the first DO medical school here in San Antonio. To accept on behalf of the Brooks School of Aerospace Medicine, Dr. Charles Fisher.
So first, you're making me follow Dr. Tom McNish. Amazing. One of my mentors, icons for a long time. Mr. Mayor, Generals, D. Howard Foundation, alumni of the School of Aerospace Medicine, thank you for the opportunity to accept this award on your behalf. My name is Charles Fisher. I was the last commander of the School of Aerospace Medicine at Brooks and the first commander of the School of Aerospace Medicine at Wright-Patterson. On behalf of Colonel Troy Woodward, the current commander of the School of Aerospace Medicine, and Brigadier General John Andrews, the commander of the 711th Human Performance Wing, who couldn't be here tonight, I'm really honored to accept this on their behalf. Now, let me tell you, the School of Aerospace Medicine was formed in preparation for World War I in 1918, and it's been in continuous operation ever since. It's one of the oldest organizations in the United States Air Force. As pilot training moved to Brooks after World War I, in 1926, a small cadre of USAF-SAM, what is now USAF-SAM staff, moved to Brooks. They first housed in the dirigible hangar, and then they moved into the first permanent structure on Brooks Field. That structure still exists over near Walmart. Their purpose was to find ways to select the best pilots, to give pilots the best tools to perform, and to find the ways to expand human performance way back then. And that has continued to be the focus and mission of the School of Aerospace Medicine now for 103 years. During World War II, the school moved to the newly developed Randolph Air Force Base. During World War II in Korea, they trained tens of thousands of flight surgeons, nurses, environmental engineers, public health officers, veterinarians. And they outgrew Randolph because they learned about space. And what we were to know about human performance in space was largely developed by the staff of the School of Aerospace Medicine. So a special complex was developed specifically to explore the limits of human performance, specifically to find ways to put man in places he had never been before. When you look at much of the space program even today, those pieces of knowledge, the treadmills, the exercise, the environmental recirculation system, so many things that Dr. Harris knows all about, were developed right here at Brooks, at the School of Aerospace Medicine and the laboratories that it was affiliated with. The military application included combat support around the world. Wherever there were American forces, there were U.S. Air Force flight surgeons, public health officers, and environmental engineers, alumni of that school. What we know of aeromedical evacuation was developed at that school and taught by USAF-SAM and still is. Think about that. How many hundreds of thousands of people have been saved and brought home safely in the arms of USAF-SAM alumni who learned critical care evacuation, aeromedical evacuation, far forward medicine. That's part of the legacy of the school, but there's a number of other things. Researchers at Brooks developed the foundations of many things that you might recognize, like the first research into what was to become MRI, the first research, some of the first research into what would become refractive eye surgery, the first ventilators. Dr. Forrest Bird, an alumni of the school, those first positive pressure ventilators, how important was that? And we ran one of the largest virology labs, and still do, in the world. Tens of thousands of samples every day. They developed techniques for rapid identification and speciation of viruses. That became fairly relevant over the last couple years. So what went on in this city at the School of Aerospace Medicine was heroic, is heroic. But the School of Aerospace Medicine and Brooks, those are hallowed ground. But the School of Aerospace Medicine is not buildings or the base. It's the tens or hundreds of thousands of people who pass through those doors as faculty, who pass through those doors as teachers, researchers, educators, and alumni. I would like for all of the alumni of USAF-SAM in this room to stand for a moment. Yeah, that's you. I see you. Then, General, on behalf of these members of USAF-SAM and the hundreds of thousands also who are out there, I'm so proud to accept this recognition. And thank you very much for offering it to us. Thank you to the D. Howard Foundation. You all have a nice evening.
We have one bonus announcement this evening, and one that I'm really excited about. When it comes to aviation and aerospace, the pilots and the astronauts tend to get all the attention. But there's a saying out there, some of the folks in this room may know. What is a pilot without a maintainer? Anybody know? It is a pedestrian with a fancy jacket. The property that you are standing on right now was built in 1917, not only to train pilots, but at the time pilots were also their own maintainers. And it grew to become the most important maintenance logistics center for aircraft anywhere in the world. Now, we can send aircraft all over the world, and in World War II we did. But if you send those pilots out there without maintainers, you're not going very far. And what few people know, and what I will admit sadly even I did not know until fairly recently, was that Kelly Air Force Base, Duncan Field, sent maintainers from this community out to the United Kingdom in World War II, not only to maintain our fleet and the Allied fleets, but to help us win that war. And the person who really told us that story, and it's a story I will tell you is not even in the official History of Kelly book yet, is Kent Knudsen, who has done some wonderful work in not only telling this story, but in convincing the Texas Historical Commission that the story needs to be told. Kent, would you come up here and tell a little bit story better than I possibly could?
Good evening. When I was growing up, I noticed that in our family photo album, there was 2 photos of my dad during World War II. One was in an Army uniform, and the second was in a set of Navy Cracker Jacks. And I was sitting there, how did this happen? So I asked him about it one day, and that's when I found out about Station X, which eventually led to tonight's Texas Historical Marker dedication. Station X was the site of a civilian service detachment of 1,050 technicians sent from Duncan Field here in San Antonio to England. They filled a critical maintenance and repair personnel gap between the British civilian technicians and the arrival of the U.S. Army Air Force's personnel that maintained Allied planes. A marker text can just say so much, so let's just take a few minutes to share a few background stories about the men and their mission. At that time, San Antonio Air Depot was the largest of the Army Air Force's 4 maintenance depots, and orders came here in July 1942 to create the civilian team. My dad and the other volunteers were told they were going overseas, but not where, hence the title, Station X. They had a month to turn over responsibilities to those folks who were staying behind, get physicals, inoculations, legal paperwork, clearances, security briefings, etc., all completed. By August, they didn't go downtown and catch the train at the train stations down there. A special train was brought on to the spur here at the base, and they left for New York City. The group would stay at the Hotel Lincoln and board a troop transport ship for the convoy to Europe. Dad mentioned that the ship next to his was torpedoed. The convoy just kept going. Finally arriving at a set of docks, the men called out asking where they were. The dock workers yelled, "Liverpool!" Soon double-decker buses would take the men to Bruce Hall at Warrington. Warrington would be the first town in the United Kingdom to receive a large contingent of American personnel during, and that was the Station X personnel, that during the war in what we called the friendly invasion of the British Islands. 3 men to a room, heated by steam, bathroom down the hall, central messing facility in another building. Mail would eventually come, as would the Stars and Stripes newspaper. Spam, lots of it for the first 6 months and sometimes 3 times a day, with occasional boiled fish and liver. With the threat of German invasion possible, the men of Station X were issued Army uniforms without insignia, so that if the invasion occurred, they would not be shot as spies or misidentified as the Home Guard. They had to carry cards to show why they were without insignia. The men were divided into 2 groups and assigned to 2 12-hour shifts with 5.5-day work weeks. The shifts rotated bi-weekly. It was round-the-clock maintenance, complete with air raids. The hangars were covered with soil, grass, and trees, and appeared from the air as hilly terrain. The front and rear of the hangars were covered with camouflage netting. The German bombers failed to achieve a direct hit. It was from these hangars that these men would perform their duties on the aircraft, their engines, their radios, and their weaponry. One of the more interesting parts of the work was admiring the many names painted on the aircraft. Those planes would include such legends as the Memphis Belle. They worked hard, but there was a chance for leave in London and in Edinburgh. The American Red Cross had centers for American personnel, and the USO had shows that would later include Bing Crosby and Glenn Miller and dances as well at Burtonwood. The Texans made quite a positive impression on the British. Station X personnel brought their large cowboy hats, Western attire, and boots, which caused quite a stir. They were later told to save them for special occasions, and quickly found their favorite pubs. Some Western musical groups formed and toured British schools and were well received. It really was a hands-across-the-water effort. Burtonwood would be destined to be the greatest of the American overseas depots in the European theater of operations. During that time, cartoonist Milton Caniff drew up a Sunday panel in his landmark Terry and the Pirates comic strip that would be read into the Congressional Record and later called the Pilot's Creed. In it, a commanding officer gives a pep talk to a young aviator that includes, among other things, reminding him to always respect the efforts of his ground crew. He reminds him that without them, he wouldn't get 10 feet off the ground, and that everyone in that gang is right beside him in the cockpit. Their hands are on the stick, just the same as his. As aircraft were maintained and repaired there at Burtonwood and later sent across the English Channel on their missions, the hands of the men of Station X, trained here at Duncan Field, were on the stick with those pilots and crews all the way. Air power would allow Franklin Roosevelt to declare that in 1944 that Nazi Germany was still a fortress, but it was one without a roof. Victory would come a year later. It's a great story from an amazing generation. Oh, and that Navy photo, well, after getting back from England, Dad joined the Navy. So at this time, I will read the text of our newest Texas State historical marker. Please stand. During World War II, British officials were increasingly concerned with the large-scale need to maintain and repair the Royal Air Force's American-built aircraft. In April 1942, the U.S. Army Air Forces chose the existing Burtonwood Repair Depot in England to be used as a centralized repair facility until the 8th Air Force firmly established itself in the United Kingdom. The depot was subsequently transferred to the American management, where it would be known as the 401st Air Depot, AAF Station 590. By July 1942, orders for the creation of a civilian service detachment reached the San Antonio Air Depot at Duncan Field, which consolidated with Kelly Field in 1943. Volunteers were sought to create a balanced team of aircraft specialists with a comprehensive mix of skills that could operate a repair depot facility. The 1,050 volunteers accepted were not told where their overseas station would be located. The site would be known as Station X. The civilians, primarily Texans, left in 4 groups over 5 months, sailing across the U-boat-infested Atlantic Ocean and sent to Warrington, England, near Burtonwood Depot. They were soon working overtime with British civilians and eventually U.S. Army Air Forces personnel. During the war, over 3,368 aero engines and 11,757 aircraft, including 4,243 B-17 Flying Fortress bombers, 4,381 P-47 Thunderbolt fighters, and 1,004 P-38 Lightning fighters were modified or overhauled. As the number of American military technicians increased by 1944, civilians of Station X began returning home, with some staying in England until 1945. Many went on to serve in the armed forces for the rest of the war, their devotion to duty and keeping Allied planes airborne during a crucial and vulnerable time in the war is best exemplified in their motto, "Keep 'em flying."
Tim, thanks so much for always doing such a terrific job ushering in our Hall of Fame inductees. And to our newest inductees, congratulations and welcome to this wonderful group of aviation and aerospace heroes. For the next 2 hours, I would like to, no, that's not in the script. Our last speaker tonight for the D. Howard Foundation's 2022 board chair is our board chair, Bianca Rhodes. Bianca is the president and CEO of Knight Aerospace. Knight Aerospace was recently selected by the San Antonio Manufacturers Association as the 2021 Manufacturer of the Year. Bianca was named 2021 Woman of the Year at the San Antonio Business Journal Women's Leadership Awards, and Bianca serves, most importantly, as a board member for the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Bianca, please.
Thank you, General Peterson. I am too short, and I feel really short when I'm in the Boeing hangar. I am willing to bet that almost every single person here is here because of Wayne Fagan. If you're not here because of Wayne Fagan, you're probably one person removed from Wayne Fagan. Most of us talk about how did he persuade us. He is the most astonishing, persuasive person I have ever met in my life. Most of us ask each other, how did you get in this? And we can't remember. I swear he hypnotized us into saying yes. But he did. He was an amazing founder for us. Ladies and gentlemen, would you help me as we pay tribute to Wayne Fagan?
I met Wayne originally back when I was chairman of Port San Antonio, and there was a group of people that wanted to create a Air Power and Heritage Foundation out here, and Wayne was one of the board members of that organization at the time. And I thought, well, I know Wayne, he's a fun guy, I'll just go have a cup of coffee with him. An hour later, after I walked out, I had said yes to joining Wayne with this grand vision he had to create a program for kids, particularly underserved kids. It sounded a little bit far-flung at the time, but I loved airplanes, and this was going to be about airplanes and aerospace. And Wayne Fagan's a heck of a salesman, so I said absolutely, having no idea what the next 7 years would entail.
Wayne, and I mean this in the best possible way, is an instigator, right? He is a person that is going to make things happen, and he's a very passionate person, and his passion for aviation and STEM and diversity in aerospace, really, it's infectious, and it bleeds through into everything that, you know, touches the D. Howard Foundation. And when Wayne is around, you know that things are going to happen. You know that conversations are going to happen and things are going to get done. And he's not going to rest until he accomplishes those goals.
This program is just a doorway to a whole new world that we even know we could have.
You get to say that you build a plane in high school. Like, what's cooler than that?
I just want to do it all. I want to be the pilot. I want to be the A&P. So I guess the challenging part is picking which one I want to do first.
Well, hopefully I can become a pilot one day and get my A&P to work on planes in the future.
You've opened up a realm of new opportunities that I never thought I would have. For many students like me and for new students that are coming up, we just thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you very much, because you're probably going to change a lot of people's lives.
Wayne, what you have accomplished has been absolutely remarkable. You've done so much for so many kids. We will do our very best to carry on your tradition in the years ahead.
We thank you for your many years of support and collaboration.
You've made our community and our business much better than where we started. So thanks again and congratulations.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne.
Wayne, thank you for the impact you have had on thousands of students' lives in this community. You have transformed lives, you have made that a habit of yours, and it's hard to imagine anyone with more passion and energy towards that goal.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Wayne.
So, the very first reason why I did this is because the mission is so compelling. There is nothing more important than bringing our youth into this world of aerospace and aviation. It's just amazing, and we are so privileged and honored to serve with this mission that Wayne passionately cared about. Number two, we have an amazing executive director. You guys have met briefly, Christina Martinez. Christina, where are you? Christina has only been with us for about 7 months. Wayne just retired. We transitioned from him. Christina has done an amazing job. She has opened doors. She has connected people. She has told this story. And I feel like our organization is in great hands with her. And thirdly, we have an amazing board of directors. You've met a lot of them tonight. And so I think I figured out that between me and Christina and 20 other board of directors, we might equal Wayne. Just maybe. We're going to try really hard to continue with this mission. So, what you are holding in your hand is a card that asks you to think about, would you like to be on this mission with us? A couple of weeks ago, the board retreated, and we talked about our mission, and we talked about the vision. Like, how do we know that we got there? Like, what would be the most amazing thing that we could accomplish? And one of our board members and our esteemed councilwoman, Dr. Adriana Rocha Garcia, who is with us tonight, said, I want to see one of our students inducted to the Aerospace Hall of Fame. It doesn't get any better than that. Would you join me in making that dream come true? Would you join me as we open that door for our community kids, our boys and girls, to learn that aerospace and aviation is a career that they could embrace, that they could become a pilot, a mechanical engineer, an aerospace engineer. They could get their AMP. They could be a CEO of an aerospace company. Would you help me to open that door by thinking about donating to the D. Howard Foundation? As I said, we have like a massive staff of one person. So you can rest assured that your money is going to go to those students, to those school districts, to those schools, directly into these programs that you walked right by and visited with as you came in tonight. They're so powerful. Most of our kids in our community have never been to the San Antonio airport. Most of them have never been on an aircraft, much less do they know the possibilities that are in front of them in aerospace and aviation. Would you help build this community for us? This amazing community of aerospace and aviation in San Antonio has so much potential, but we need all of our kids to know that we exist. We need them to choose this career, and we need them to choose San Antonio. So would you be a part of that with us tonight? I thank you so much for your encouragement, for your support. I thank you for being here tonight on this amazing night. I will tell you, a month ago we were trying to figure out if we had to cancel this event, so I am so honored that you would spend the evening with us. I thank the honorees for their amazing inspiration to all of us tonight. I thank you, the students. I thank the sponsors. I ask that as you think about this, you keep in mind the amazing words, that you would listen to that voice of desire, that is the voice of God, as you think about how you want to support this program. May God bless you tonight as you go home. May God bless our country, and may God bless the Ukraine. Thank you.